Ripple XRP and Stellar XLM are transforming Malaysia's payment landscape, the quiet financial lifeline for millions of families across Asia. Malaysia isn't just a regional economic powerhouse. It's also a hub for migrant labor workers from Indonesia, Bangladesh, Nepal, the Philippines, and other neighboring countries send billions of dollars back home each year. In fact, Malaysia ranks among the top remittance-sending countries in Southeast Asia. But here's the catch: the system is broken. Traditional remittance methods are painfully outdated. If you're a foreign worker in Malaysia trying to send part of your hard-earned wages home, you're going to get hit with three major problems: high fees, slow transfer times, and limited access to reliable banking infrastructure. The average cost of sending remittances globally still hovers around 6% to 8%. And for low-income earners, that's a significant cut. For someone sending $200 home every month, that's $12 to $16 gone, not including currency conversion markups and hidden service charges. And then there's the time factor. Even in 2025, it can take 2 to 5 business days for funds to arrive through traditional banking rails. That's unacceptable in a world where financial emergencies can strike in an instant. But this is where blockchain begins to flip the script, especially with technologies like Ripple's XRP and Stellar's XLM. Let's be clear, Ripple and Stellar weren't built for speculative hype. They were engineered with one specific goal: to make cross-border value transfer instant, cheap, and universally accessible. And when you apply that to the remittance context, especially in places like Malaysia, their impact becomes undeniable. Ripple's XRP is designed to act as a bridge currency. That means you don't need to hold or pre-fund accounts in the destination country. A remittance provider in Malaysia can convert ringgit into XRP, send it across the world in seconds, and cash it out in the recipient's currency, all without touching the legacy SWIFT system. This is called on-demand liquidity, or ODL, and it's a game changer for both speed and cost. Now compare that to the traditional model where banks hold nostro and vastro, accounts filled with idle capital just to facilitate transfers. That model is inefficient, expensive, and completely inaccessible to smaller financial players. XRP makes that obsolete. And then you have Stellar with its native token XLM, where Ripple is more focused on institutional corridors and liquidity solutions for banks and payment providers. Stellar is all about peer-to-peer access and financial inclusion. Think of it as the grassroots complement to Ripple's enterprise infrastructure. Stellar's architecture allows users to issue and transfer tokenized versions of fiat currencies instantly, and for fractions of a cent. This means fintech startups in Malaysia can build services that let users send funds to Indonesia or the Philippines with nothing more than a smartphone. No waiting, no high fees, no central authority controlling the rails. In short, while the old system was built for banks, Ripple and Stellar are building for people. And in a country like Malaysia, where migrant workers are the backbone of multiple industries, that distinction matters. This isn't theoretical. These technologies are already being deployed. Ripple has partnerships in place facilitating wallet transfers from Malaysia to Bangladesh via Bcash. Meanwhile, Stellar's ecosystem includes regulated money transmitters and fintech platforms that are tapping into its rails to build the next generation of remittance apps. So when we talk about transforming remittances in Malaysia, we're really talking about a bigger story. This isn't just about improving one country's remittance flow. It's about proving that blockchain can solve a $600 billion global problem. Ripple and Stellar are not just reshaping the financial future of Malaysia. They're setting the standard for how the entire world can move money quickly, affordably, and transparently. Ripple XRP, the engine behind a new era of global payments. Let's get into Ripple, not the buzzword, not the headlines, the actual infrastructure that's transforming global payments from the ground up. At the heart of Ripple's solution is XRP, a digital asset purpose-built for one of the most broken parts of finance: cross-border payments. If you've ever tried to send money internationally, you felt the pain firsthand: delays, excessive fees, random holdups, transfers that get lost in banking limbo with zero transparency. That's the legacy financial system, and Ripple was built to end it. Ripple, the company's enterprise blockchain payment network, now connects over 300 banks, payment providers, and fintech firms globally. But what really separates Ripple from the noise is its use of on-demand liquidity, or ODL, a feature that uses XRP as a neutral bridge currency to facilitate real-time settlement across borders. Here's why that matters. In the traditional system, if a bank in Malaysia wants to send money to Bangladesh, it typically needs to maintain a pre-funded account in Bangladesh Shaka. That's capital sitting idle, not earning interest, just waiting to be used. That inefficiency is baked into the cost of every remittance and every international payment. Ripple's ODL model eliminates that friction instead of pre-funding. Money is converted from Malaysian ringgit into XRP, sent across the XRP ledger in seconds, and then converted into Taka on the other side. No intermediaries, no pre-funded accounts, no wasted liquidity, just real-time cross-currency settlement, nearly instant, and often at a fraction of the traditional cost. Let's break that down. You're replacing multiple middlemen and legacy systems, SWIFT correspondent banks, liquidity providers with one decentralized ledger and a bridge asset that can move value anywhere in the world in 3 to 5 seconds. And this isn't theoretical. Ripple's system is live. It's in production. Financial institutions in the Asia-Pacific region are already using Ripple to connect remittance corridors that were previously slow, unreliable, or too expensive to be viable for low-income users. One standout example is the partnership between Malaysia's mobile money and Bangladesh's. Bcash, facilitated through Ripple, this connection allows direct wallet-to-wallet transfers between workers in Malaysia and their families in Bangladesh. That's not just speed, that's economic empowerment. People are receiving more of their money faster and with greater control over how it's used. But let's zoom out. What Ripple is doing in Malaysia is just a preview of its global ambition. Ripple is building the infrastructure for a new financial internet, one that doesn't rely on banks to pre-agree on liquidity, one that doesn't require hours or days to move value across borders, and one that finally gives smaller financial institutions the power to compete. This is where XRP shines, unlike Bitcoin, which is optimized for decentralization and store value properties. XRP is optimized for speed, cost, efficiency, and interoperability. It can process 1,500 transactions per second, settles in under 5 seconds, and costs fractions of a cent to send. And while most people are still debating the price of XRP like it's a meme coin, the truth is this: every time XRP is used to settle a cross-border transaction, it's performing a real-world function, replacing legacy infrastructure with digital rails that gives it intrinsic utility, something 99% of the crypto space still lacks. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Regulation. Ripple has spent the last few years battling the SEC in the US, but in the process, it's emerged as one of the few crypto companies with real clarity around how XRP functions. And while the US has dragged its feet, Asia Pacific, the Middle East, and parts of Europe have leaned in, giving Ripple a green light to roll out its infrastructure in the very markets that actually need remittance transformation. And here's something most people miss. XRP doesn't just speed up payments. It enables markets that previously couldn't participate. Smaller banks, fintechs, and money service businesses can now access liquidity without needing millions in capital reserves. That opens up corridors like Malaysia to Bangladesh that were either too expensive or too niche for major financial institutions to care about. So when you hear that Ripple is helping to send money from Malaysia to Bangladesh in seconds, don't mistake that for a one-off story. It's a window into what happens when a digital asset is designed for real-world problems. Ripple is rebuilding the global payment stack, and XRP is the engine behind it. This isn't about disrupting banks, it's about replacing outdated rails with something faster, leaner, and infinitely more inclusive, and XRP is already doing it stellar. XLM, promoting financial inclusion. Now let's talk about the other side of the remittance revolution, stellar. If Ripple is building the back-end rails for institutional grade cross-border liquidity, stellar is building the front-end bridge for everyday users, the people who've been ignored, excluded, or simply priced out by traditional finance. At the center of Stellar's ecosystem is XLM, its native asset. And it's not just another token chasing hype. XLM was built for a purpose: to move money across borders peer-to-peer, instantly and almost for free. And here's the key difference. While Ripple has always focused on working with large financial institutions, Stellar's DNA is grassroots. Its mission isn't just about faster payments, it's about financial inclusion. Plain and simple. Let's break that down right now. Over 1.4 billion people around the world remain unbanked. No checking account, no credit, no financial identity. Not because they don't want access, but because the system never made room for them. High fees, rigid ID requirements, and geographic barriers have locked entire communities out of modern finance. Stellar changes that equation. It offers a decentralized open source network where anyone with a mobile device can send, receive, and hold value, no bank needed. And it does this with near zero fees. And lightning fast confirmation times, we're talking 2 to 5 seconds per transaction, with costs measured in fractions of a cent. That opens the door for microtransactions, cross-border micropayments, and day-to-day utility in ways no traditional payment rail can even touch. This is why Stellar is gaining serious traction in remittance-heavy markets. You want to send $20 across a border using a traditional provider, you'll lose a huge percentage to fees. Try doing that every week on minimum wage. It doesn't work. Stellar makes it work securely, transparently, and with minimal cost, but here's what makes Stellar unique. It's built for interoperability. The network can support tokenized versions of any asset: dollars, euros, pesos, ringgit, even mobile credit. That means Stellar isn't just sending XLM, it's enabling local currency transfers over blockchain rails. So now you've got people in rural areas using mobile wallets that plug into the Stellar network to send their local currency directly to someone in another country who receives it in theirs instantly, and often without needing a bank. At either end, this is massive, and it's not just theory, it's happening. Stellar's anchor system lets regulated entities issue fiat-backed digital tokens on the network. These anchors serve as the on and off ramps for real-world currency. They're what connects local economies to the global Stellar ecosystem. One of the best examples is MoneyGram's integration with the Stellar blockchain. What used to require a manual day-song process at a remittance desk can now be done on a mobile phone. Users can go from fiat to USDC to fiat using the Stellar network as a settlement layer. And here's where Malaysia comes in. Stellar's tech is increasingly being adopted by remittance firms operating in the Asia-Pacific region, not because it's flashy, but because it works. It's cost-efficient, reliable, and more inclusive than anything a legacy finance can offer. It empowers the very people who were locked out, domestic workers, migrants, freelancers, to participate in the digital economy on their own terms. While XRP is helping financial institutions move billions more efficiently, XLM is giving individuals control over every dollar they send and receive. It's two sides of the same coin: infrastructure and access. And Stellar doesn't just talk the talk. It's a nonprofit backed by the Stellar Development Foundation, whose sole mandate is to increase global financial access. That's not marketing spin, that's mission-level code written into how the ecosystem evolves. This isn't about moonshots or price speculation. This is about making money move like information, borderless, seamless, accessible. And if we're talking about real-world crypto use cases, Stellar is already doing what Ethereum promised, but never delivered for the world's unbanked. XLM isn't trying to replace fiat. It's here to connect it. And in doing so, it's quietly unlocking financial freedom for millions, not with headlines, but with real-world utility. One transaction at a time. That's the power of Stellar real-world application, mobile money, and Bcash partnership. This is where theory meets reality, where blockchain stops being buzzwords and starts becoming a solution. The remittance corridor between Malaysia and Bangladesh is massive. Over 1 million Bangladeshi workers live and work in Malaysia, and together they send home more than $1.8 billion in remittances every single year. But until recently, this flow of money was slow, expensive, and fragmented. Let's be clear, these aren't high net worth individuals sending large wire transfers. These are workers sending home $100, $200 at a time, sometimes weekly, and every unnecessary fee. Every hour of delay, every failed transfer hits where it hurts. Family support, groceries, school fees. That's what makes the partnership between mobile money and Bcash so important, because it fixes this broken system. And it does it using Ripple as the core infrastructure. Mobile money is a licensed mobile wallet provider in Malaysia, Bcash is the dominant mobile financial service in Bangladesh, used by over 70 million people. And now, thanks to Ripple's technology, they're connected seamlessly, instantly, and compliantly. This isn't just about sending money, it's about changing the experience of sending money. Before, a worker in Kuala Lumpur had to deal with high fees, long queues at money service counters, and delays that could stretch for days. Now it's mobile to mobile direct, wallet to wallet, with settlement in seconds, not days. That's Ripple at work, not some hypothetical someday solution, but a live operational regulated remittance rail. XRP isn't always the part of the transaction you see, but it's what makes the magic happen in the background. And here's what really makes this partnership stand out: on-demand liquidity. ODL traditionally, financial institutions had to hold pre-funded accounts in destination countries, tying up millions of dollars in capital just to ensure liquidity. But Ripple's ODL model flips that on its head. It uses XRP as a bridge currency, enabling instant settlement, without the need for Nostra Vostro accounts that slashes costs, reduces risk, and makes the entire process radically more efficient. In this Malaysia-Bangladesh corridor, Ripple's tech enables regulatory compliance, currency conversion, and real-time settlement, all in one smooth flow. Mutual Trust Bank in Bangladesh acts as the regulated banking partner, ensuring local currency delivery with oversight and legitimacy. So now we've got a remittance rail that's mobile first. Blockchain powered, regulator approved, live. Right now, this is the kind of innovation Ripple has spent years building, not headlines, not hype, but infrastructure that actually solves problems. And this isn't a one-off, it's a proof of concept for something much bigger, a global web of interconnected digital wallets, financial institutions, and payment providers, all linked through Ripple and increasingly powered by XRP. Because when you solve real problems for real people, you win adoption. This partnership is a blueprint, and it sends a clear message. Blockchain isn't coming, it's already here. It's invisible by design, and it's already moving billions across borders every year. If you're still on the sidelines wondering if crypto has real utility, look at what's happening right now between mobile money and Bcash. That's not speculation, that's execution, and XRP is right at the heart of it. Future prospects and global implications. Let's be blunt, what Ripple and Stellar are doing in Malaysia is just the start. This isn't just a Southeast Asian story. This is a preview of where global finance is headed. When XRP and XLM are involved in live cross-border corridors like Malaysia to Bangladesh, when they're solving billion-dollar pain points quietly in the background, what we're seeing is the formation of a new financial layer, a system that doesn't rely on outdated correspondent banking networks, one that moves money like email instantly, cheaply across borders at scale. Right now, Ripple is expanding its on-demand liquidity corridors all over Asia, the Middle East, Latin America, and Africa. That means XRP is increasingly being used as a liquidity bridge in regions with volatile currencies, weak banking infrastructure, and high remittance volume, the exact places where change is most needed. And Stellar, it's becoming the infrastructure for financial inclusion, while Ripple builds around financial institutions. Stellar is focused on peer-to-peer access compliance, ready stablecoins, and real-time asset issuance. And that's critical because over 1.4 billion people worldwide remain unbanked. That's not a small problem. That's $1 trillion gap waiting to be solved. What we're witnessing is a dual-pronged assault on legacy finance. Ripple and XRP targeting institutional rails, liquidity gaps, and settlement bottlenecks. Stellar and XLM empowering people on the ground, the underbanked, the remittance dependent, the everyday users who've been locked out of the traditional system. And this isn't theoretical anymore. Governments are watching, central banks are exploring integrations, regulatory clarity is on the horizon. We're already seeing discussions between blockchain networks and central banks about digital currency issuance. The CBDC race is heating up, and both Ripple and Stellar are involved in real-world pilots. Ripple has already launched trials with multiple central banks, from Bhutan to Palau, and rumors are swirling about even larger economies, testing Ripple's private ledger for CBDCs. Why? Because they need instant settlement, liquidity bridging, and interoperability, and XRP was built for exactly that. Meanwhile, Stellar is moving fast too. Their integration with MoneyGram is already live, allowing users to convert cash to USDC and back in over 180 countries. And that same on-ramp, off-ramp infrastructure could power retail-facing CBDCs, stablecoin wallets, and remittance services at a global scale. Let's not forget. This isn't about replacing banks, it's about making them better, faster, leaner, borderless. But as this momentum builds, the next phase is clear mainstream adoption. We're heading toward a world where every major wallet app offers instant cross-border transfers powered by XRP or XLM micro remittances under $1, are processed with near zero fees using Stellar enterprise-grade financial institutions, settle millions in real time using Ripple CBDCs, integrate directly into these networks for global reach, with regulatory compliance baked in. And here's the kicker. The networks are ready now. It's not the tech that's lagging, it's awareness, regulation, and partnerships. But those barriers are falling fast in a world where legacy systems are too slow, too costly, and too exclusionary. Ripple and Stellar are offering proven alternatives. This isn't the future. It's already happening, and the rest of the world is catching up. So if you're asking whether XRP and XLM will go mainstream, the answer is they already are. The rails are being built, the corridors are going live, the volume is real, and the impact is measurable. The question now is, are you paying attention? Because when the rest of the world finally sees what's quietly been happening, it won't be early anymore. Ripple and Stellar aren't just part of the new financial system, they're defining it. And the remittance corridor in Malaysia is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. The journey of Ripple and Stellar in Malaysia is just the beginning. What we're seeing isn't a regional trend. It's the early stages of a global financial overhaul, one that's not led by governments or mega banks, but by the networks actually solving problems on the ground. Ripple didn't wait for permission, partnered with mobile wallets, banks, and remittance companies, and proved that XRP can move billions in real time without the costs and delays of Swift. Stellar didn't chase headlines, it focused on real-world usability, microtransactions, peer-to-peer payments, unbanked communities, and built a system where XLM empowers people who've been ignored by traditional finance for decades together. They're not just competing with the old system, they're building something better. Malaysia is simply the first domino as remittance corridors open across Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. And as blockchain moves from a buzzword to actual infrastructure, Ripple and Stellar are emerging as the new backbone of global money movement. It's no longer about hype, it's about who's actually building, who's going live, who's processing transactions, who's delivering value. And if you're still thinking of XRP and XLM as speculative plays instead of infrastructure assets, you're missing the point. Because by the time the rest of the world wakes up to what's being built here, it won't be early anymore. This is where the next generation of financial systems is forming fast, borderless, permissionless, and scalable. So if you want to stay ahead of it, not behind it, this is your signal. Subscribe to Be Crypto Smart right now, because while the world sleeps on the biggest shift in money we've ever seen, we're breaking it down daily. No fluff, no noise, just real insights on what's coming and how to position yourself before it hits the mainstream. You don't want to miss what's next.